Hello everyone. So I'm going to be talking to you guys something very, very important. I'd already said before that because some of you guys that watch my YouTube videos, you are students, and sometimes I do get complaint about the impact of maybe should I say UK education on your performance and how that somehow affects your pursuit, okay, here in the United Kingdom. So I made like few videos, academic video, okay, but I thought I should add this. One of the problem most people have when it comes to academia, academic writing, or as the case may be, has to do with plagiarism, okay. And because of there is a wider definition of plagiarism, I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. I wouldn't go with, maybe I'm not going to try to define something that is generally well known. I want to bring it in a way you can be able to understand what plagiarism actually means. So now, when we talk about plagiarism, there are, should I say, 2 or 3 ways you should look at it. First of all, I want you to know that it's not, when we say taking someone's work without giving him or acknowledging the person, okay, that is plagiarism. That is right. But that is just one aspect of plagiarism, because acknowledging the person's right means a lot, and taking someone's work also means a lot. So it's a two-way thing. Taking someone's work, it means so many things. Not acknowledging the person also means so many things. Now, let me tell you the way I tell people about it. Now, even if I say Obi is a boy, or I said, if I say something like maybe Manchester United is one of the Premier League club in the United Kingdom, you may paraphrase that, okay? When you don't give me that helped you, so because you saw that statement from my paper, okay? So if you don't, even though you have paraphrased it, if you don't give me credit of it because you saw that from my paper before you paraphrase it, that is plagiarism. Although in this context, the system, Turnitin, may not necessarily highlight it as plagiarism, okay? But I want you to know that that is still plagiarism. In other words, if you take information from a paper, you paraphrase it, but you did not give that paper that credit, that is still plagiarism, okay? Now, because that may look like you didn't take someone's work, for the fact that that work gave you the idea to paraphrase, that is the person's work. Now, the credit I want us to talk about or think about here has to do with this. Who gains the credit? Like, who gains the award? Who gains the score? Who gains the mark? For example, if you use a paper to write something, you are the one that will be awarded the mark. The least you can do for that paper is to give that paper credit in your coursework that this information I provided here is from this paper. So while the paper is getting the credit, you are getting the mark, okay? So you are getting the grade. So that is the way it's supposed to work. Now, many times, students think that plagiarism is only when you copy something and paste it. That is plagiarism. Why that is correct, but that in itself is not the only aspect of plagiarism. So if you copy something, some people think when you copy something and reference where you copied it, that is not plagiarism. That is still not right. You may have copied something and you reference, you give the source the credit, okay? That is still plagiarism. Why? Because you are the one that will be getting the award. You are the one that will be getting the grade, not the paper. Do you understand? So what it means is this. The ideal way to avoid plagiarism is when you read something, you understand it, you paraphrase that thing to mean the same thing of that source is trying to communicate, but you have paraphrased it. Are you getting me? You still give the person the credit, even though I have paraphrased it, but it's the idea, the originality of my idea was gotten from your book or from your source or from your paper. So that is the best academic practice. So in plagiarism, it's not just copying something, it's not just paraphrasing something. To avoid plagiarism, there are a number of things you should do. One, you should read a source, understand what that source is saying, paraphrase what that source is saying. Are you getting me? Then give the source the credit. Do you understand? If you paraphrase what the source is saying and you don't cite the source, you don't give the source the credit, that is still plagiarism. Because wherever you get the source, you get the credit. Like I said, most time, Turnitin may not be able to get this aspect of plagiarism because you paraphrased it. So it may not be able to know or maybe capture the fact that you didn't cite the right source. You use another source for that. But I want you to know in practice, that is also plagiarism. The one that the Turnitin is likely to get or picked up is when you copy something or when you write something without paraphrasing it significantly, okay? That in itself is plagiarism. So when you paraphrase something, you've got to paraphrase it in such a way that if you don't tell someone where you got it from, they will not know. In fact, let me give you an example. If you want to know, I know there are so many plagiarism checkers there. If you want to know if you plagiarize, if you write something, if you put that paragraph of what you wrote on Google, are you getting me? You ask yourself where, so you are going to see highlighted, okay? Things that are highlighted. So if all of them are highlighted, that means you didn't paraphrase very well, okay? But if you've seen few highlighted here, and then a lot of things are not highlighted, then you see highlighted, a lot of things are not highlighted, you see highlighted, that means that in itself then is not plagiarism. Now, I would recommend that when you write, paraphrase. First of all, read, understand, paraphrase, then give that source that credit. Now, having said this, one of the biggest problems in plagiarism is this. In attempt to plagiarize, in attempt not to plagiarize, you may end up diluting the wordings or paraphrasing the wordings in such a way that it will lose its meaning, especially when it comes to scientific writing. For example, things like leukemia, you can't change it. Things like thrombocytopenia, you can't change it. Things like anemia, you can't change it. There are many things you cannot change. So while it is important to paraphrase, it is also important that you don't paraphrase in such a way that the scientific meaning of what you are writing, are you getting me now, okay, will be lost. Once that is lost, you are no longer communicating that subject matter, okay? Now, when we check plagiarism, we are not just checking the percentage. What we are checking is what is high. How did you plagiarize? Okay, let me explain it this way. So even if the Turnitin may say, maybe when you submit your coursework, it will tell you that the plagiarism rate is high. Okay, it depends on what you are looking at. For example, the Turnitin is going to highlight every keywords like leukemia, white blood cells, thrombocytopenia. All those keywords is going to highlight them as plagiarism. Okay, but what you want is that when your lecturer look at your work, the person should see that the things that you've not paraphrased, you've not changed, are the things that you should not change. Does that make sense? Okay. So the idea of academic writing is not to have plagiarism. No, that's not the idea. The idea is to make sure you understand and paraphrase very well when you, sorry, I think I should say this correctly. The idea of academic writing is not to avoid similarities. but avoid plagiarism. There's a difference between similarities and plagiarism. So you can have so many similarities, but there's no plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you've not paraphrased something, okay, and perhaps you copied it or you didn't paraphrase it well and all of that, okay, even though you may have given the person the credit, but that is your coursework, not that person. So similarities is the fact that the Turnitin is going to pick up everything that is similar, that is out there. So what we are going to check is the similarities. Where is it highlighting similarities? If where is highlighting similarities are the things you cannot be able to change, that's not plagiarism, okay? Because I'm saying this because sometimes students try to avoid plagiarism. In your attempt to avoid plagiarism, to reduce the similarities or to water down the similarities, you may end up diluting or watering down the scientific meaning of what you are writing. Anyway, so in terms of plagiarism, it's not just copying something and giving the person and not giving the person credit. No. So it's not just using somebody's word or using somebody's work without giving the person credit. That's not just, that's plagiarism, but that in itself is not all for plagiarism. You can copy somebody's work and give the person credit. That is still plagiarism. Why? Because you copied everything the person said, even though you gave the person the credit, that is still plagiarism. So to avoid plagiarism, you read the source, you understand the source, you paraphrase the source or what the source has, the source content, you paraphrase it, then you still give the source the credit. That is the way to avoid plagiarism. Don't copy, just read, understand, paraphrase, and then give the source where you got that information from, give that source the credit. So that is what plagiarism means. So I don't want us to think that plagiarism is all about copying, pasting, and not giving credit. That's not correct. Why that in itself is plagiarism. Plagiarism also means that when you copy, even though you give the person the credit for the fact you did not paraphrase it, is still plagiarism. So to avoid plagiarism, read the source, paraphrase the source, and then paraphrase the content of the source, then give the source the credit. That is the way to avoid plagiarism. Can I say this? If you actually do this, you don't need to worry about it, because you know you paraphrase all your work. That way, you don't need to worry about plagiarism. And I must tell you that plagiarism is a big offense. It's actually a fraudulent offense, rather. So what it means is that a good academic practice means that there should not be what? Plagiarism. There can be similarities, but there should not be what? Plagiarism. I've told us the difference. So in the similarities, there can be similarities without plagiarism, but very unlikely that there will be plagiarism without similarities. I hope you understand this. Anyway, do let me know what you think about the video, okay? And please put your comment. Can I ask you to like, share, and subscribe? I wish you all the best till I come back away again. Bye-bye.